Jonathan Haidt, very nice to meet you on this World Mental Health Day.
Oh, Prince Harry, what an honor to meet you.
Thank you for spending time with me and having this discussion about your book, The Anxious Generation, which, funny enough, aligns very well with the insight sessions that we've been doing with young people in numerous different countries.
Hello, fellow squatties. Welcome back to Royal Telly. We're here to delve into an important conversation that unfolded on World Mental Health Day. The Duke of Sussex, our very own Prince Harry, had an insightful discussion with Jonathan Haidt, the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Anxious Generation. They explored the profound impact of social media on the mental health of Generation Z. So without further ado, let's dive into the heart of this insightful conversation.
In many cases, the smartphone has and is stealing young people's childhood.
Exactly. We are overprotecting our children in the real world and underprotecting them online. And both of those moves are mistakes. They're bad for development.
For social media companies, there's a lot of finger pointing. Mm-hmm. It's very easy for social media companies to point the finger at parents and say, well, you know, this is down to you, this is down to your parenting.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah. So if there were some parents who were getting this wrong and most parents were getting it right, then I'd be very receptive to that argument. But once kids get a phone and social media, the rest of family life turns into a fight over screen time. And this is happening everywhere. This is happening in Silicon Valley, where the parents know what's going on. In fact, in Silicon Valley, you're much more likely to find parents who say, no, you cannot have this because we know how bad it is. Why do we give our 10-year-olds a phone? The main reason is because everyone else did. We don't want our daughter to be the only one who's left out. I'm facing this now with my 14-year-old daughter on Snapchat. So the tech companies put us in a bind, and then they're trying to blame us for what they did. A few companies, 3 or 4 companies, largely own childhood now. They have far more influence on our children than we do, at least in terms of the amount of time they can spend influencing. Mm-hmm. They vastly exceed the power of parents. And then they want to say, oh, but it's your fault. No, it's their fault.
On World Mental Health Day, our very own Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, led a crucial conversation with Jonathan Haidt. The discussion, a touchstone of our modern times, revolved around Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation. A New York Times bestseller, the book delves deep into the impact of smartphones on the mental health of Generation Z.
Perhaps the best way to start is for the people that haven't heard of your book or haven't even had a chance to read your book, what is The Anxious Generation about, and what is the clearest, most important message and takeaway from it?
So The Anxious Generation is about a big change that happened for young people born after 1995. There's never been such a sharp generational shift. Those who were born in the late 90s and afterwards, it turned out when they hit puberty, they had very, very high rates of anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicide. All of those went up. And they all went up right around 2012, 2010 to 2012 in that region. Everything goes up, not just in America, but all over the English-speaking world and in Scandinavia and some other parts as well. And then what happens is between 2010 and 2015, the technology changes such that young people, they trade in their flip phones for smartphones. And now, with a front-facing camera, high-speed internet, 1 million apps that are competing with each other to hook kids' attention. And so if you went through puberty in the early 2010s, your brain was influenced in early puberty in ways that set you up for worse mental health, especially depression, anxiety. Whereas the millennials were basically done with puberty. They didn't get all this stuff until they were in college, until they were at least 18. So they went through that critical period of puberty and they came out okay. So the Anxious Generation is helping us understand the incredible destructive force of this transformation of childhood between 2010 and 2015, and then what we can do now to stop that from happening and to help those who already have been through it.
Haidt's findings are startling, painting a picture of a generation grappling with anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicide, all of which have seen a sharp rise between 2010 and 2012. At the heart of this crisis, Haidt places the smartphone. Young people trade in their flip phones for smartphones, he said. And now with a front-facing camera, high-speed internet, 1 million apps are competing with each other to hook kids' attention. He refers to this as the transformation of childhood, a shift that has had devastating consequences on the mental health of our youth. The Duke of Sussex, always an advocate for mental health, shared Haidt's concerns. He highlighted how easy it is for social media companies to shift the blame onto parents. a viewpoint that Haidt firmly rejects. Prince Harry said, "It's very easy for social media companies to point the finger at parents and say, well, this is down to you. This is down to your parenting." But this blame game is a distraction from the real issue, the unregulated digital landscape that our children are navigating. The anxious generation, as Haidt calls them, are not just victims of their circumstances. They are helping us understand the incredible destructive force of this transformation of childhood. Their experiences shed light on the unique challenges of growing up online and the urgent need for us to take action. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, through the Archwell Foundation, are committed to gaining insights on social media and the future of the digital landscape. By engaging with young people and parents, they aim to work together to create a better online world. As Haidt powerfully put it, we need to understand the destructive force of this transformation of childhood and take steps to address it. We need to stop the blame game and start working towards solutions. We need to listen to our young people, to their experiences, their fears, and their hopes for the future. The discussion between Prince Harry and Jonathan Haidt was not just a dialogue about mental health, it was a call to action, a plea for understanding and empathy. It was a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a better future for our children. We must not forget the gravity of this situation. Our children's future is at stake. The Duke of Sussex, along with Jonathan Haidt, urges us to take this issue seriously, to listen, to learn, and to act. As Haidt powerfully put it, we need to understand the destructive force of this transformation of childhood and take steps to address it. This important conversation coincided with the release of the Archwell Foundation Insight Report. This report, the second edition of its kind, encapsulates a wealth of knowledge from ongoing sessions organized by the Foundation. These sessions facilitate intimate discussions aimed at deepening our understanding of how young people and parents navigate life in the digital age. The report presents a global youth perspective on technology's evolving role, featuring contributions from young people across Colombia, Georgia, India, Jamaica, Kenya, Nigeria, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The voices of these young individuals shed light on the unique challenges of growing up online in today's world, and they share their hopes and aspirations for the future. The Archewell Foundation Insight Report illuminates the reality of a digital childhood. It highlights the struggles faced by Generation Z as they grapple with the rise of social media and the ubiquity of screens in their lives. The report underscores the importance of understanding the impact of this digital revolution on the mental health of our youth. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, through the Archwell Foundation, are devoted to engaging with young people and parents to gain insights on social media and the future of the digital landscape. They are proactively working together to create a better online world, one that respects the mental health of its users and promotes positive interactions. The findings of the report corroborate the observations made by Jonathan Haidt in his conversation with Prince Harry. The rise in mental health issues among teens, such as anxiety and depression, coincides with the advent of smartphones. The report emphasizes the need for actionable steps to address this escalating crisis. This report is more than just a collection of insights. It's a call to action. It's a plea to parents, educators, and policymakers to understand the digital landscape that our children are growing up in and to take steps to mitigate the harmful effects of this new reality. The Duke and Duchess are committed to creating a better online world, and this report is a significant step in that direction. Haidt's foundational smartphone rules have sparked both celebration and criticism. This is a key takeaway from a profound discussion between the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, and Jonathan Haidt, renowned author of the New York Times bestseller, The Anxious Generation. Let's dive into these 4 foundational smartphone rules that Haidt has put forth. They are not just rules, but they're strategies, guidelines, and tools that can help us understand the digital world better. They are particularly relevant as we explore the impact of smartphones on the mental health of Generation Z. The first rule emphasizes the importance of not rushing into the digital world. Haidt advises against handing over smartphones to children at a tender age. The digital world is vast and complex, and young minds need to be adequately prepared before they dive into it. The second rule underscores the need to set boundaries. This includes limiting screen time and ensuring that digital devices do not encroach upon essential activities like family time, study time, and especially sleep time. The third rule is all about fostering a healthy relationship with social media. It's not about completely shunning social media platforms, but about using them in a way that they add value to our lives and not become a source of stress or anxiety. The fourth and final rule is about maintaining a balance. It's crucial to strike a balance between the real and the digital world. Engaging in physical activities, spending time in nature, and maintaining real-world social connections are as important as staying connected in the digital world. Hate's rules aren't set in stone, but they are a great starting point. They highlight the need to approach digital technology mindfully and responsibly. It's about understanding that while smartphones and social media have become an integral part of our lives, they should not control our lives. Hate's foundational smartphone rules serve as a reminder that we have the power to shape our digital experiences. We can choose to use technology in a way that enhances our lives rather than letting it dictate our lives.
This is one of the problems that I have. I mean, we're both dads. These apps have been specifically designed to hook and keep children online for as long as possible.
That's right.
Mindless scrolling. And during that scrolling, they have content that is pushed to them, content that they wouldn't otherwise go looking for, to keep them online for longer. And some of that content ends up suggesting suicide.
That's right.
So how do we fix this at the source?
Well, so fixing at the source means we recognize that social media should be in a category with casino gambling, smoking cigarettes, buying a gun, driving a car. There are a lot of things in this world where we've decided, you know what, these are things that adults have a right to do, but they're really bad for kids. And it's actually pretty simple. When do we have age limits? When do we say that kids can't do something? Parents could see this happening. I think the discomfort was beginning to register in 2019. This was all baked in before COVID. Nobody can tell me, oh, well, it's COVID. No, this was...
COVID accelerated it.
COVID accelerated it, yeah. What kids really needed in 2019, I was saying this back then, was they need a lot more time outside playing independently, and they need a lot less time on their screens. And that's especially when TikTok roars into become the center of younger teens' lives, and that's really been catastrophic.
As we've seen, the discussion between Prince Harry and Jonathan Haidt shed light on a pressing issue our society faces today. The impact of social media on the mental health of our young generation is a concern that requires our immediate attention. Generation Z, those born after 1995, are growing up in an era of unprecedented digital connectivity. With the advent of smartphones, their childhood experiences have been radically transformed, leading to a sharp rise in anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicide rates between 2010 and 2012. The conversation between the Duke of Sussex and Haidt, author of the acclaimed book, The Anxious Generation, emphasized that this surge in mental health issues is not a mere coincidence, but a direct consequence of the omnipresent smartphone. Haidt's insightful analogy of young people trading their simple flip phones for the complex world of smartphones serves as a stark reminder of the destructive force of this transformation. The front-facing camera, high-speed internet, and the multitude of apps vying for children's attention have fundamentally altered their perception of reality, making them the anxious generation. However, it's not all doom and gloom. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, through their Archwell Foundation, are committed to creating a better digital world. They are engaging with young people and parents, gaining insights on social media and the future of the digital landscape. They aim to understand the unique challenges of growing up online and to develop actionable steps to address these issues. The Archewell Foundation Insight Report, now in its second edition, is an invaluable resource in this mission. It encapsulates global youth perspectives on technology's evolving role and presents contributions from young people across 9 countries. These voices illuminate the distinct challenges of navigating life in the digital age and articulate their hopes for the future. The struggle between parents and technology companies. Jonathan Haidt, during his conversation with Prince Harry, shed light on this universal dilemma. He said, "If there were some parents who were getting this wrong and most parents were getting it right, then I'd be very receptive to that argument. But once kids get a phone and social media, the rest of family life turns into a fight over screen time. And this is happening everywhere. This is happening in Silicon Valley, where the parents know what's going on." Haight's comment brings us face to face with a harsh reality. We as parents are often caught in a bind, torn between the desire to protect our children and the fear of isolating them from their peers. The main reason, Haight said, is because everyone else did. We don't want our daughter to be the only one who's left out. I'm facing this now with my 14-year-old daughter on Snapchat. So the tech companies put us in a bind, and then they're trying to blame us for what they did. This struggle is universal. It's not limited to any particular society or class. Even in Silicon Valley, the heart of the tech world, parents grapple with the same issues. The question we must ask ourselves is, are we as a society ready to challenge the tech giants? Are we willing to hold them accountable for their part in this conundrum? The answer to these questions will shape the digital future of our children.
So if there were some parents who were getting this wrong and most parents were getting it right, then I'd be very receptive to that argument. But once kids get a phone and social media, the rest of family life turns into a fight over screen time. And this is happening everywhere. This is happening in Silicon Valley, where the parents know what's going on. In fact, in Silicon Valley, you're much more likely to find parents who say, no, you cannot have this because we know how bad it is. Why do we give our 10-year-olds a phone? The main reason is because everyone else did. We don't want our daughter to be the only one who's left out. I'm facing this now with my 14-year-old daughter on Snapchat. So the tech companies put us in a bind, and then they're trying to blame us for what they did.
Now let's focus on a particular aspect of this conundrum, the safety paradox. Prince Harry, in his insight sessions, often shares anecdotes from parents who justify giving their kids smartphones at a younger age for safety reasons. It's a compelling argument, isn't it? The ability to stay connected, to reach out in case of an emergency, to track your child's whereabouts. These features make smartphones seem like a necessity rather than a luxury. However, this convenience is a double-edged sword. While parents have the comfort of knowing their child's location, they also grapple with the struggle to control app usage. The smartphone, a tool meant for safety, becomes a gateway to the addictive world of social media, video games, and endless internet browsing. Jonathan Haight does not mince his words when he argues against the safety justification for smartphones. He suggests that the safety provided by smartphones is an illusion, a facade that hides the detrimental effects of these devices on our children's mental health. He questions whether the trade-off is worth it. Are we trading our children's mental well-being for a false sense of security? As we ponder over this paradox, Haight presents a potential solution. Perhaps a simpler phone, without the complexities of a supercomputer, might be the answer. A device that ensures connectivity, but without the distractions. As we navigate this digital landscape, it's important for us to question our decisions and their impact on our children. It's not an easy journey, but together, we can ensure a safer and healthier digital future for our children.
Yes, of course, there are benefits of being connected online, but the harm that's being caused, and they recognize it as well, and they want to be part of the conversation. They want to be part of redesigning these tools and having safety at the central part of it. How hard is that to actually do? Can they actually be fixed? Can they be changed?
Well, Meta has shown very little sign of being willing to change. They did just improve some features on Instagram. That's at least a step forward. But their business model commits them to grabbing eyeballs and never letting go. But there are many companies out there. I've been talking with Pinterest, the CEO Bill Reddy. They just on their own, they cut off the social features for kids under 16. They said, come to Pinterest, look for patterns, look for ideas. You're welcome to come look around. But no, we're not going to let strangers talk to you when you're 14 or 13. So companies can do this. Tech companies, some are behaving responsibly. It's really Meta, TikTok, and Snap are the three that own our children's childhood and that I think are behaving irresponsibly and that really aren't going to reform unless they're forced to by legislation or by massive parent outcry.
Prince Harry, in his dialogue with Jonathan Haight, raised an intriguing point about the potential positive aspect of social media. He suggested that for many young people, especially those grappling with personal issues they don't feel comfortable discussing with adults, social media can serve as a lifeline. It can be a platform where they can express themselves, seek advice, and feel understood. It's a compelling argument, isn't it? The idea that our children could potentially find solace and support in the digital world. However, this lifeline comes with its own set of challenges. How do parents ensure that their children are benefiting from these online interactions? How do we prevent them from falling into the trap of cyberbullying or online harassment? Moreover, is the support they receive online a substitute for the real-world connections they need? Jonathan Haidt offers a rebuttal to this myth of social media serving as a lifeline, especially for marginalized communities. He argues that while the internet began as a resource, social media platforms have transformed it into an algorithm-driven news feed that feeds on our insecurities and fears. The more we engage, the deeper we fall into this rabbit hole of misinformation and negativity. Haidt emphasizes the importance of real connections over numerous online connections. He suggests that while online platforms can offer support, they should not replace the need for human connection and empathy. As we navigate this digital landscape, it's crucial to question the impact of our decisions on our children's mental health. Are we trading their real-world connections for a virtual lifeline?
From a parental standpoint, we want the best for our kids. And social media, we know to a large extent, is giving an outlet, an added resource to kids that perhaps don't feel comfortable coming to us to talk about their issues and their troubles and their worries. And therefore, it's far easier, as we know, even for adults, to go and speak to complete strangers. So kids online will be feeling more connected with complete strangers on social media. So how do you, if you're a parent that you know that your kid is getting good out of social media, how do you have that conversation with them, or how do you not keep tabs, but perhaps certainly from the Parents Network and the group of parents that we have now formed, they from their perspective, the advice that they've been given is to follow your children. So you at least have a good understanding of a better understanding of what world that they are in and what they're being exposed to on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So and what you're saying there is to some extent one of Meta's favorite talking points, which is that social media is a lifeline for LGBTQ kids, for kids from marginalized communities. And that's just not true. What's true is that the internet was great for them. The internet solved all these problems in the 90s. If you're a gay kid, you're not out to anyone in a rural part of America or England, the internet was amazing. You could find information, you could find people who are like you, and you could communicate. There were a lot of ways, there were a lot of groups that you could talk to. When social media changes so that it's no longer even about just me connecting to you, it's now about the news feed and an algorithm-driven news feed that sends content to you. This is not what they need. If you have any special interest, you can find that with Google. You don't need an algorithm to feed you stuff.
Well, now most of these kids are going to TikTok because they want to see someone of their own generation.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a myth that this stuff is a lifeline. It's a myth that this stuff is good for kids. Connectivity often is, but there are different kinds of connectivity. The research, I think, is very clear. When kids have a best friend, or I think especially a small group, that's super fun, they generally do well. When kids don't have a close friend or close group, they're much less likely to do well. When you have 300 connections, you don't have time for anyone. You're less likely to have a best friend. So when social media takes over our kids' social lives in the early 2010s, it's not like, oh, now they've got lots of friends. No, it's like now they have no room for a best friend. They just have all these shallow connections. It's not good for them.
I've said in the past that, at least to a certain extent, families and parents used to know that your kids were safe under your own roof. They would go walking to school, coming back from school, go to the shops, whatever it was, and no matter what age. Of course, they get to a certain age where they can do those walks themselves, and then you know that once they're under your own roof, that they are presumably safe.
Yeah, that's right.
We can't say that anymore.
No, that's right.
A lot of the parents that we've spoken to, some of the stories are obviously incredibly harrowing, but they also talk about the banning of phones and the fact that the conflict that creates between parents and their children themselves. And obviously, a lot of parents, give their kids phones at a younger age to keep them safe. right? It's a double-edged sword. They want them to have their phone at school in case of an emergency, but once like any kid, if you have your phone, even if you're told you're not allowed to download that app or you're not allowed to, kids have a way of working around. But at the same time, you have the tech companies say that they can't verify age because of privacy concerns.
Well, first, in terms of safety, I understand the parental need for safety. So if you're actually sending your kid out independently to go around town, to walk over to friends' houses, well, that's great. I applaud you. If you want to give your kid a phone so that if anything goes wrong, they can call you, great, give them a phone. Just don't give them a supercomputer connected to everyone in the world. Like, they don't need that. The millennials had flip phones. They went through puberty with flip phones to call each other, text each other, meet up. They came out fine. Gen Z went through puberty with a supercomputer, blocking out almost everything else in life. Everything goes down. Much less time with friends, much less sunlight, many fewer books, many fewer hobbies. You take almost everything out of childhood, you replace it with this and a bunch of million short videos. It's not much of a childhood.
In conclusion, it is clear that the issue of mental health in the context of social media usage is complex and multifaceted. It demands our attention, our understanding, and our action. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are leading the way in this endeavor, striving to create a safer, healthier online world for our children. Thank you for joining us today, fellow Squaddies. Your support and engagement are vital in this journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Royal Telly.